For we are taking pains to do what is right, not only in the eyes of the Lord, but also in the eyes of man. 2 Corinthians 8, verse 21. Pain is inevitable, but it is how we react to these situations is what we use to arm ourselves with. And that armor is integrity. If you don't heal from painful things, it will definitely consume you, and it's a vicious cycle. It comes in a form of what you do in certain situations. There's peer pressure. There's all type of things in life. The goals that you want in life. Who doesn't want to be stable? Who doesn't, want to be the material gains or form of happiness? But if that is your ultimate goal, you have to be really mindful on the ways of how you're going to obtain that. So I've always lived, in a shell for a majority of my life. And if you're naive enough, which I was, you will give a blind eye, or it's almost like omission to some things, and you let stuff slide. And is it right? No. But it happens a lot of the time. You'll meet certain people, and it's something that is a choice that you have to have within yourself. Are you going to make the right choice? So you can know someone for years, and they know something that you don't know and will never tell you. Those are like family secrets, or stuff like that. Say like a child was adopted, or some kind of crazy thing, and nobody tells this child. Or it can be a guy, and with the role of a man, we all are familiar with a man wants to have his purpose. He wants to have stability. He wants to be able to provide, and provide for his family, whether who is in his family or who he takes in as his family. The thing that he has to face is, how is he going to get it? Some people, they'll find any way to make a dime, and it's one thing to deem yourself as a hustler, but you're doing it the right way. And it's in a whole nother realm where you literally abandon all morals. When everything is, your back is against the wall, how are you going to go about your life? And it's who is it to blame? It's peer pressure. Socialization, if you look at the process of it, it's pretty much the definition of socialization is, it's the process of learning, to be a participating member of society. It regulates our behavior. It brings out the conformity to the norms and laws of society. So if there is a flaw in the norms of how you were raised, I don't want to say how you were raised, but if there's a flaw in what society deems is correct, will you abandon the structure the laws of, of pretty much of God, is there's a reason why there's 10 commandments, so are you willing to abandon those things just so you can fit into the flaws of social norms? Some people do that. They don't care by any means necessary. But it comes to a time where that lion is walking in the streets and he's looking for whoever he can devour. And if you don't have discernment of what is what, you will be gobbled up, or you can probably save yourself from it. But that choice is yours. There's a lot of casualties due to someone obtaining wealth or, life. And we all know the whole range of capitalism, where there's more, when people lean more towards capitalistic, ways of life, morals go down. So it comes to what you believe in yourself. Are you gonna hold your morals and your integrity over what you wanna gain? So some people, they kill. Some people, they manipulate all type of stuff. Some people, they'll manipulate an old lady and get all her money out. Or, they'll use other people as pawns just to get their wealth. And it's a shame, but it happens. Or you get someone that was like me that will see certain things and would choose to not face it and just put in the back of in my mind, that it couldn't be. Person has to have some morals. I have morals, so I'm not gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. And it's literally there in black and white. And the devastation that happens to people when you do that, it's like watching a lynching. You're just as guilty watching a lynching than the person's actually doing the crime. So you just have to be mindful enough to know to face that man in the mirror. So it is what it is, but it's a cycle. There's certain things that if you go through pain, whether childhood or adolescence, stuff like that, those things are going to mold you, and it's going to skewer your way of thinking. It's a schism. But if you don't heal that, you're going to go down a lot of wrong roads trying to reach this pillar of, whatever your goal is. So it doesn't matter, whether what you want. It's all about how you get there. And that's, that's the main thing. It's how you get there, because you can gain $1 million and you can lose it all, everything stripped from you through your integrity or lack thereof, so it comes to a point where I remember there was someone told me this, and it blew my mind, because I never even thought that someone can even think like this, but people do. People think like this, some people. And he told me, he goes, if you get a girl, you find a dirt on her, and if you can't find nothing on her, then you dirty her up. And I looked at him like, what does that even mean? Why would you even want to do that? And for some reason in his head, it literally made perfect logic. And when you look at it, it's like, so you're okay with manipulating, and just doing, it's just wrong, for what? For your own self-gain? So it's just like, so you would rather make sure that nobody in this world, would want to see, I guess, her beauty or I guess purity, or however you want to say it. But those was his words. And, he stood strong by those words. And it literally was, it's almost crippling, And I looked at him almost with a little bit of pity. Because it's just like, why do you feel like the only way for you to gain anything is for you to either A, manipulate all things around you in order to get it, or B, when you do have something, you literally will break the legs, of whatever you have, so it can't run away from you. That's some misery stuff right there, but people do it. But integrity, when I was going through so much depression, and it was so much of a low, the one thing that I held on tight to, and I still do, is my integrity. It doesn't matter, what happens. God judges you not from the things that you have. He judges you by your heart. So at the end of the day, God knows who you are. It has nothing to do with how anyone perceives you or anything like that. What you convey to people. God knows exactly who you are. So when you go through life, I definitely stand by the sociologist's term of do no harm. If you see someone and you can't improve them, leave them alone. Or, leave it where they are at their point. Don't do anything to make them digress. And I try, to always see good in people, because there's always some good in people. There is. No one's ever born, with not an ounce of goodness in them. There's no light in you. Everyone's born with some amount of light, whether it got dimmed by other, things that happen in your life, or you dimmed it yourself. There's still light in you. So I would always, look at people that there has to be some good. People get ruled by emotions, and emotions are fine. It's just that once you let it rule you, you forgo your moral structure. And that's the defining moment, whether you're going to crash and burn or you're going to soar. So it's one of those things of, you think, why do people do the things that they do? And a lot of things are caused by pain, things that happened in their past, and most people don't realize it. People are very, very quick to cast their judgment, or they think they know what it is, and you truly you don't. until you really get to speak to the person. That person really allows themselves to be vulnerable with you, and they open up and tell you these things. The man that told me what he said about, dirtying up a girl, he had a very, very rough past. Very rough, and it wasn't easy for him to really talk about a couple of things, but I understood it. I wouldn't say that I fully knew exactly everything what it was, but the key thing is to have the empathy. I try to be as empathetic as possible, because overall he wasn't a bad person inside. It's just he made a lot of bad choices, and the same thing goes for me. I don't want to be a bad person, but we do make mistakes. But it's the integrity that you have that is what's going to mold you and how you're going to go about in life. Are you going to forgive? Are you going to let stuff go? Are you going to let pain hold you? Those things consume you. They erode your soul, your happiness, your joy. And those are the main things that everybody wants. I think it's one of the keystone things that everybody wants. They want joy. They want happiness. And then all those things are underneath that umbrella. I want money. I want a house. I want a family. I want a car. Whatever it is. The ultimate thing is joy. But without joy, God will give you joy through your purpose of who you are. And if you're not willing to listen or even trying to just discern things, you're going to try and seek joy the way you think joy is supposed to be. And that's when things get haywire. So it's you start to compromise. You'll definitely compromise, the right choice and the wrong choice. And some people, they'll manipulate their way just to get to what they want to get to. I want $1 million. So if I don't have any kind of moral structure, or I abandon those values, well, I'm going to manipulate every single person I get around me in order for me to obtain it, So just like I said, whether it's an old lady and she has $1 million in her bank for retirement, and you sitting around hanging out with this lady, waiting for her to die, or you see another lady, and that's what she has to go do so she can get her money, and you take it from her, or you have you sell drugs, and you do this and you do that. Whatever it is, you're leaning on your own understanding at that point, and you're literally trying to do things your way, and you think you're going to beat life. You don't beat life that way. It never happens. The only way to go through life is to have a moral compass. Moral compasses come from literally the foundation of what God tells you what to do, who you are. That's what conscious is, your conscious, your moral compass comes into play. And if you ignore that, there's going to be consequences. And even if something painful does happen to you, even if somebody does wrongs you or whatever, you have to be able to see the biggest picture in all of that. You have to let it go. You have to just forgive it. And you have to keep going. And you have to learn from what it's trying to tell you. God is trying to tell you something, and if you're not listening, you're going to just repeat it. Doesn't matter. You're only going to be but so far. Because it has nothing to do with what you want. It literally has everything to do with God's will. What God wants in all of this. And if you are going through something, the best thing for you to do is literally pray. Pray to God, what am I supposed to be seeing in all of this? What am I supposed to be doing in all of this? Show me what to do, pray on it. things happen, life happens, but you have to roll with the punches. And whether, God tells you to have a seat or tells you to keep moving forward, it's what you do. Most people, they don't do that. They'll literally sit there and call their girlfriends on what to do, or call all they man's friend. I'm gonna do about the situation. Pray to God about it. God literally will tell you in your gut what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're not doing it, then you're going to repeat it, and it's going to come in different forms and different variables, and you're going to have to see it. But if you conduct yourself in life with a good moral compass, a lot of problems that you have encountered probably wouldn't have never happened had you struck really hard on holding that moral compass, that integrity. And integrity means everything. Nothing's as strong as a man's word, his promise. If you don't have that, no one's gonna it's just like you lose, period. It's how you go. And I've always been a forgiving person, always, and I don't think I would never lose that, because it's literally who I am. This is just God's gift for me. Learn to forgive, learn to be empathetic, try to see where that person's coming from as to why. If somebody hurts you, well, why did you do what you did? And then you come to find out it has nothing to do with you. It's something that was deep rooted from a long time ago. You're just another variable in that person's cycle of what they were supposed to have learned. And they will keep learning it. They'll keep going through that cycle until they learn it. So it's just like, how many times are you going to be in the same class before you graduate at that point? And as you do pass classes, the classes get harder. It's training. But you're stronger. You do have more armor. The key thing is to hold on to your your moral compass. Hold on to that armor. Because if you don't, you're gonna crash and burn. There ain't no way. One thing that you want to leave this world with, one thing that they said, is that, that person is always held. They did the right thing even though everyone's telling them to do it wrong. You still stand strong to what God told you. And you're going to be alright. You're going to be okay. It doesn't matter. I don't care if the whole world is pointing a finger at you. You know in your heart what it is. And God knows that. God sees that. And that is going to give you the key to being at peace. That's what's going to give you your inner peace. It don't matter what your mama say. It don't matter what your co-workers say. It don't matter, what your friends say. Whoever, the guy at the grocery store, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know in your heart who you are. And you know the actions that you've done. So that's it. Everything comes back forward. God sees everything. It's never something where things go unpunished and things don't get rewarded. It's just a balancing act. But sometimes certain things happen. I wanted to get this car, and I saved up all this money for it, and I came one day later, even though the car was there every single day for the past 2-3 years. Came one day later and somebody bought the car. That car wasn't for you, bro. The next car, though, that you do get fit like a glove. You was good to go. Did everything that you was supposed to have done. So you don't know what's in God's vision. He only gives you but so many steps enough that you can handle. The key is to be obedient and to just be like, okay, I take your instructions, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. My instructions right now, do this podcast. Doesn't matter what the hell happens around my circumference. It doesn't matter. Every day you strive to be a better person. Do better. Do no harm. Be a better woman. Be a better mother. Be a better friend, daughter, sister, whatever it is. Focus on what your assignment is. Don't grab onto too many plates, and you'll go far. You know, I love people, and I love everyone, because there is good in everyone, even people that do not like me. You know, and there's going to be people in your life that you're going to encounter that they despise you. They wake up every day trying to get at you. Love them anyway. Because sometimes there's something in you that they need. And sometimes, that person's not actually that bad. They're just going through their own pain. And it's just something where you're going to have to be empathetic to just be like, I get it. I know what pain feels like. It comes out in many different ways, but I know what pain feels like. You're going to get there. And hopefully, how you conduct yourself, and you extend an olive branch, even when sometimes that person doesn't even deserve an olive branch. Sometimes maybe one day they'll actually take that olive branch. Things always get mended. No one's perfect. There's some things I have to work on. There's some things that other people have to work on. Period. But let's all get better. That's the key goal to all of this. Let's all get better. Everyone's human. So, obviously there's going to be flaws. But the key is to help the other man. And that, in its essence of itself, that is the absolute truth of integrity. Don't let that stab wound in your back harm you to the point where you can't even love anymore. It just is what it is.